Here we go. All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Wall Street Rundown. I'm your co-host Billy, and I got Wale with me. What up, Wale?
Man, what's up, man? Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes,
Pleasure.
sir. Yes, sir. You can see Wale's on the road today, sitting on the balcony by the pool, chilling. Wait, why do you got a sweater on?
Man, it's cold outside.
I just noticed. I was like, wait, you're in
Yeah,
California, you got a
I got a
sweater on.
hoodie on, but it's running a little cold right now. So
Oh man. But yeah, man, the market, bro, like it's again, we're seeing the same level of volatility that we've been seeing for the past months, 2 months now, right? It's the
yep.
same level of volatility. I haven't got a chance to check on the VIX, but I think the VIX is probably still up in the 20s.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
24. VIX is still at the 24. We hit 29 and we kind of, retrace a little bit, but we're still sitting at that 20 levels. I mean, we've been talking about this since the VIX was over 15 level, right? So yeah, the volatility is still in there. S&P closed. I mean, S&P kind of closed a little bit higher today, like 0.5%. Dow Jones was down 0.2%. NASDAQ, I think NASDAQ came up a little bit toward the end of the day. Let me see. QQQ. Yeah, QQQ kind of came up a little bit toward the end of the day. So, but we're still not creating any new high. It's still kind of low and stuff. So, some of the key factors that impacted today, inflation data came in. CPI. CPI came lower. I don't know why. I don't understand it. Like,
So
I,
my
I for sure thought it was a mistake.
so my take on the CPI is
Mhm.
that we're looking at February data. We still don't know what type of impact any of this tariff policy is going to have until we start getting data for maybe April or May.
Okay. Okay.
So, you know, coming into February, you look at all the February data, you know, tariffs aren't really impacting any of that data. So
Right. Right.
that could be encouraging. Now we'll get PPI tomorrow, which will be what producers are paying for all of the goods that they're importing or, you know, getting into their inventory. So we'll see if that comes in line as well. But to me, the major CPI and PPI data that we need is this stuff that's going to come off after we see all of this tariff stuff.
Right.
That's the important number. So yeah,
Right. But I don't know if I think something's supposed to go into effect tonight at midnight. I think that's a Canada one. Um
I think either Canada, at this point, I'm so confused about what's
I
on and what's off. But I know that I think the EU is putting tariffs on things. I actually made a list. And
Mhm.
let me just read what I wrote. So
There's a lot.
there's a bunch of stuff happening. So the tariff on and off stuff. So first, the U.S. did sweeping tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports, and then that was coming with Canada and the European Union.
Right.
Then Canada said they're going to do 25% retaliatory tariffs on $21 billion worth of US made goods. Then the EU said that they plan to slap 50% tariffs on imports of American whiskey, motorcycles, motorboats that will hit companies like Kentucky Bourbon and Harley Davidson.
Yep.
And then Trump was like, well, I'm going to go to 50% on Canada tariffs for energy. And then they finally were able to hash stuff out. But what I still think, okay, here's my list. What's in effect right now? 10% on all imports from China, 25% on all imports from Mexico, 25% on most imports on Canada, but there's a lower import tariff for energy. Then you have another additional 10% import on China, which is in effect. And then you have the reprieve of goods that fall under the USMCA pack. That's suspended. And then now we have 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel. So those are the ones that are in effect. So
Right.
most of these, we have some that went into effect February 4th. China went into effect February 4th. Then they got slapped with another 10% on March 4th. So when we start looking at some of the March, April, May data, that will give us more of a hint on whether we're seeing inflation.
Right.
Um, I think today's data that we got on CPI and what we're probably going to get on PPI, the Fed's probably going to look at it and be like, we're going to hold, one
We're
data
gonna see,
point or one.
yeah. We're
Yeah,
gonna see it. Yeah.
it's not going to see it. So I just, my the most important piece that I want to hear from them is what do they say about second quarter GDP? Is everyone on board about it being negative, or is that just the Atlanta Fed who's an outlier in that decision?
Yeah. Well, hopefully somebody will get the balls and ask him that question so he can tell us exactly what's going on. I mean, he probably gonna dance around it because if he admits to it, I mean, we in deep trouble,
Yeah,
So
yeah. The one key word that could hurt the market is if Powell says the economy is fine, but we see signs of slowing or we see signs of contraction. If he even hints that there are signs of things slowing down, I think the market will react negatively to that news. Um, and I don't know if we're going to get the whole dot plot thing at the next meeting, but
mhm.
to me, I just want to see, is the Atlanta Fed the only Fed department or the Fed region that feels that we're going to get negative GDP in the second quarter? So we'll
Crazy,
see.
man. Like the tariffs even impacting the gaming industry. Sony and Nintendo, they say they're experiencing challenges due to escalating US tariffs. So if you guys don't know this, a lot of those games that you guys to play, the consoles and all this stuff, all this I get assembled in China.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
guess what? You're probably gonna see your your gaming console go up like maybe 50%. So keep that in mind. This is affecting everybody, man. This is not just like one side. So
And the thing about the policy that is so frustrating, especially for business people, is that it can change overnight.
mhm.
Like what you see today won't be what you see tomorrow. What you see tomorrow may not be what you see next week or next month. So all of that uncertainty is driving the markets to be so volatile right now that you really can't pinpoint um, necessarily what's going to happen and actually start to make predictions.
Yep.
It's almost like you got to take it day by day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another thing I saw is Tesla actually was up today. Tesla was up like 7.59, 7% today. Like that's, I mean, just out of nowhere. Like we see that Donald Trump was sitting in the Tesla's car right in front of the White House. I was like, damn man, you became a salesman now. But
Yeah, I think Tesla to me, this bounce is more so of a technical oversold bounce because that stock has been in the dumpster for the last few months.
yeah,
And to me, at some point, when a stock is down 40% off the highs, you will find buyers at some point. The
yep,
question becomes, does the buying become sustainable, or is this just a relief bounce where it's just a short-term phenomenon that will again start to revert back to the bigger picture trade trade momentum towards the downside because
yep.
that's just where we are right now. Nvidia was also another stock that was
Nvidia,
up big
another one.
today.
Yep.
And I think it's up in the after hours as well. So we saw a pretty today was a wild session. So we saw a pretty good move in the beginning from the CPI.
Mhm.
And then that move just absolutely died.
Got sold off. Yep.
Then we saw buyers step in. Then that move died. And then we saw a rally into close. So the only omen I'll take from a technical standpoint from the indices is that they made a higher low today. We didn't break yesterday's low.
Right.
I don't see that being a confidence booster saying, okay, now is the time to buy. To me, it just, again, you get to a point where stocks or the market gets oversold too much, you will find buyers.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think
Opportunities.
that
People gonna start seeing opportunities and stuff. So they can jump
correct.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Even looking at Tesla, it bounced off of that level that's back from October last year. It literally
Hmm.
bounced right off of that level. It found some buyers there. So from a technical perspective, that was unexpected, right? It's like, yeah, there was probably a lot of orders there to be bought. Um, let's see. The other thing that I was gonna mention is IWM. I mean, it is being beat down. Like I feel like every time it's trying to rally up, it gets pushed down. You know what I mean? So I don't know where we are with that. I don't know if we're gonna see more lows coming up, but even today's rally, I mean, he went out hit 206 and he got rejected right away.
And it got rejected hard.
Yeah, yeah, and they just sold it off like crazy.
And
And
I go ahead.
I was gonna say, in terms of where it's sitting right now, it's like we created a lot of like equal lows on the
Hmm.
daily. If you look like
Hmm.
three candles back to back, same lows, we just keep hitting it. So typically, what happens is there might be another order that comes in and we just break that. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, when I look at IWM, I have no confidence in small caps until possibly we start to see a rate cutting cycle.
Hmm.
Until then, I think they're going to struggle. Um, and I would not be surprised if it started trading well below 195, call it 196 area before we see any really, really strong relief. But small caps
Yeah,
really good coming out of market downturns, but until you get a confident signal that the market's reversing,
it's nothing,
yeah, I don't think it's to me the path of least resistance will continue to be lower.
man. And the volatility is just like, man, it's. I don't know what's gonna happen to flush out this volatility. I feel like we had a volatility flush, like I remember in August or December of last year.
Hmm.
We had like a really good volatility flush, and then we kind of see like the market kind of edge a little higher. So I think right now we're still the volatility is still too high. Like until VIX drops below, you know,
At
below
least
20.
at least below 20, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we can drop below 20, like, I think I'll be more confident start buying more, toward the calls and stuff. But it's like right now, it's still gonna like it's still nerve wracking, man, because we're still up there.
Yeah.
So
And I was telling people in the trading group today, like, now is not the time. There's nothing tells me you should be a buyer. And I get that people want to, get in the bottom and be like, oh, I got in at the bottom and stuff like that. That's really, really hard.
yeah,
Again, I keep stressing out if you want to do that dollar cost average, because again, I still think that we will see more downside because I think bigger picture, the economy is still, in my opinion, slowing down. We're going to get jobless claims tomorrow as we get every Thursday. We're going to get
yep,
PPI tomorrow as well. And to me, when we get the Fed meeting next
on the
week on the
19th.
19th,
Yeah.
I don't see the Fed creating any sense of urgency to start cutting rates. I don't
Mm-mm.
see them talking about. I think they're going to just be like, we're going to be continuing to look at the data. As long as unemployment is 4.1%, that just tells them that we don't need to do anything.
Right.
Inflation is kind of still where it needs to be. I think what would get 2.9 was it 2.8 year over year? I think it was
Two
2.8% CPI
2.8% CPI.
year over
Yep.
year. So
Yep.
that's zero point 0.1 below where they'd like to be. And again, they're going to be like, well, one data point or two data points don't create a trend. We're going to hold the way things are.
Right. Right.
So I don't see any major, you know, relief buying next week, if anything. I could be wrong, but again, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening next week. And we're not going to get GDP until April 30th.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, I agree with you. Like, I think the next week meeting is going to be very important. Now I wouldn't be surprised if you see the market edge higher going leading into the meeting and then we sell off. I would
mm,
not be surprised if that happened. Is setting people up and then pumping fake basically. So
yeah, 'cause that's what we saw today.
yeah, yeah,
That's exactly what we saw today. We saw a really eager rally in the beginning of the market trading that eventually just faded. And what I saw today when I start to dissect how the market traded, SPY was in the green, right?
mm,
QQQ was in the green. But when we look at the broader equal weight, the RSP,
RSP. Yep.
finished in the red.
Mm-hmm.
So what that tells me is that today was a rally basically dominated by technology.
Yep.
So,
Just one side.
and I'm not saying that that's not a good thing, but always take rallies that are dominated by one sector of the market with a grain of salt. So until it broadens out, until we have other sectors that are starting to move in the same direction as the overall market. To me, you got to be patient. Don't rush it. And
Yeah. Speaking of RSP, we actually broke through like a very important level that Monday. I think it's like the 13th, the week of the 13th. Let me see what day is that. We broke through like this level right here that I was watching. If you look on Monday the 13th, see that candle right there?
mm,
We broke through that and we closed below it. So twice in a row, 2 days in a row. So I think we're probably gonna push lower.
yep. And then when you get a major average like the 200 EMA or SMA becoming resistance, and we saw that 3 days ago, that's another indication, in my opinion, that the path of least resistance will continue to be lower. I
Yep.
have 169.80 as an area of interest that if we start to test that area, actually, no, I take that back. 169.02. If we test that area and find a bounce, then I'll be watching if we start to create higher highs or higher lows from that level. If we do not, and we break below that, then I would assume that more pain is on the way, at least until we get to 167.
Yep.
So I've been watching the RSP. I've been also watching, SPY and all the other ones, but RSP to me gives you a more unbiased look at what's going on in the market.
Yeah.
So that's why I tend to watch that a little bit more often
Yeah.
sometimes.
No, everything definitely looks like it's pointing to the downside. Now, here's the crazy thing. Remember, we were talking about how Buffett was selling? Now we know
Yeah.
why his ass was selling. Now we know why Buffett was selling and sitting all that cash. You know what I mean? Like he knew something was coming. And he knew how the market was going to be impacted. That's crazy, man.
And another person that was selling, I don't know if you look at, you track Congress people, trades, Tommy Tuberville.
Tuberville.
If you look at his last few trades, all his trades for 2025 are all sales. And if you look at the last few months of 2024, all sales.
Mm,
So maybe when we see him buying, that'll give us some confidence that we can dip our toe
I'm
into the
telling you,
market.
him and Warren. If they
hmm
when they start buying, yeah, dang, Tuberville. Okay, so January 10th, 2025, he executed several sales stocks like Apple. He sold between $15,000 and $50,000 worth of Apple. He sold shares in Microsoft, Texas Instruments. Yeah, this guy.
He sold, he was on a selling spree.
Yeah, and it says mid 2024 he purchased some puts on companies like PayPal. This guy. Yeah.
Talk about the ultimate insider.
But here's the crazy thing. In 2021, it said Tuberville reportedly violated the Stock Act 132 times by failing to disclose trades promptly. That's
Uh-huh. How
crazy.
how many times?
132 times in
And
2021.
and he's still employed by the federal
He's still
government?
employed. So he legit just said, F y'all, I'm not going by the rules. And I'm gonna buy it and not report it. That's crazy, yo. That's crazy. See,
That's
those are reasons why you should be looking into your congressman before you elect them. You need to have some honest people in there, but I feel like money corrupts everybody. So
oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I've been, like I said, I've been hearing a lot of um things that are unusual, especially from Howard Luckman, the Chamber of Commerce guy that Trump appointed,
yeah,
about,
yeah,
like, how tariffs are actually going to help America. Like, I get it if you're trying to bring in revenue when you start to decrease taxes, but again, I still think that the consumer is going to get, like, hurt, because you look at the automotive industry. You want them to
hmm
build factories in California and assemble in California. You can't just erect an automotive plant and build it within a year or 2 years.
yeah,
I heard that the timeline for that is like 4 years. So if I'm a manufacturer and I know I can't just build a plant out of nowhere, and by the time I build a plant, whoever's in office is going to be gone. why would I build a plant?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I don't understand that logic that, yeah, come to America, build your cars here. You can't just all of a sudden move production of things like cars overnight. Like that's
Mm-mm.
impossible.
It's gonna take time. It's gonna take time, and you gotta adjust your costs, right? Like, yes, you're bringing jobs back, but now it's gonna cost you a lot more to
And
produce. The labor is gonna be
and gotta
pro-
it's gonna and that consumer is gonna actually
we're gonna feel it. Yeah,
they're gonna feel it. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
So to me, you can't do that in a time where you're trying to curb inflation. The timing's not like 2016, 2017, 2018 before we had inflation.
Yeah,
That's probably something that people might be able to eat because we can have inflation. But now you're trying to combat inflation. So to me, trying to increase prices is counterproductive.
yeah. I mean, nothing about this market makes me confident just yet that the leadership and the plan that's in place is actually going to help the market.
No.
Like everything is pointing away from helping the market. You know what I mean? There's no cooperation. There's no like, trying to work with other countries. Like it's just like, nope, you're gonna pay
And
this. You're gonna pay
and
this.
there's no clear direction. So until
Nope.
there's clear direction and clarity about what to expect, it's really hard to sit there and be confident that the market is eventually going to bounce
Right.
at some point where you're as an investor are going to start, um, looking to buy opportunities. Now, again, I'm not saying don't buy. I think that if you're going to buy in this environment, be very strategic about how
Mhm.
you go about that. I think that you have to be prepared to tell yourself, if I buy today at, let's just say the stock that you love is $25, I need to be prepared to potentially buy that stock again at 24 or 23.
Facts. Facts.
If you have that mentality, rather than the mentality that, okay, here's the bottom, let me go all in, I think you'll be better off long term. So again, breaking up your capital into smaller chunks
Yep.
and
Yep.
making systematic withdrawals to me is a better way to go. So,
Yeah.
again, when we look back in the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years from now, those decisions will start to pay off. But you have to tell yourself, I'm
Facts.
not expected to see this pay off anytime in the near term. Not at
Yep.
all.
And if you have 401k, I think that's probably is the best time. I mean, in my
Hmm.
opinion, to start thinking about upping your
Contributions.
contribution a little bit because honestly, man, like you probably buy the same 401k, whatever bucket you in, whatever basket you have, it's probably cheaper to buy it now than it was like 2 months ago,
Of course. Yep.
So
Yep.
it's
Like
probably a good time to rack up real quick, rack up more of those shares.
yeah, if you're in any sort of systematic investment plan now, do what you can to increase your contributions. I will say that with confidence that you will be your you will be happy about the results in the long run.
Yep.
So, if it's $50, $25, $10, whatever that number is that you can comfortably forfeit for now.
And honestly, you're not gonna miss it.
No, you're not gonna miss it. If that means you don't eat out one day a week or you don't eat out two
You're
days a
fine.
week or whatever,
You're fine.
trust me, your brain will figure out how to spend what is left from that increase in contribution.
Facts, 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 facts. Let's pivot to Intel, man. How do you feel about the new CEO? Like, I don't know, man. I read about the guy and I was like, I
So
was
the only Go
I
ahead, go
was I
ahead.
was I was hoping to get somebody from outside, man. Like they got somebody from inside. And I think that's what they did with the last CEO. You see what he did. I was hoping they would bring somebody from like not part of Intel at all, not a chairman, not a nobody. You know what I mean? I didn't want anybody from that used to work at Intel before to be brought over. But yeah, man, I was kind of disappointed. I ain't gonna lie.
So I was disappointed. I thought they would go with someone who might have been a little bit more innovative, as far as where they came from.
Yep.
But when I sat and thought about it, I said that they brought in someone that's on their board because that person is probably really, really familiar with their business. And their
Mm-hmm.
biggest priority right now is restructuring. So if if your priority is restructuring the business, you probably want to bring in somebody who's very familiar with the business.
Yeah.
So, you know, the stock reacted very well after the announcement. I think it was up, what, 10%?
Yeah.
So that was a nice move. Whether that holds or not, I don't know. But as we both said, Intel has its work cut out for it. And
I got a lot.
whether or not they can execute on that, I do not know. Now, the news about them working with Broadcom and NVIDIA, if they can cash in on that opportunity, I also heard
Mm.
about them potentially teaming up with TSM to
Yep.
do a few things in the United States. The one thing I like about Intel is a US domestic chip maker.
Yep.
They are not their business. Now, I'm not saying that the headline news about tariffs is not going to affect the stock because obviously it's affected the stock over the last few months. But from a business standpoint, because they produce and build a lot of their stuff in the US, they're not going to be affected by tariffs
That's true.
as
That's
much as
true.
maybe somebody else who builds most of their chips outside the US.
That's true.
So they've got that going in their favor. But I think that they have to really start to capitalize on relationships with other companies.
Hmm.
And from a long-term standpoint, again, we've been buying Intel since under 19. So I like the trajectory.
It's gonna take time.
I
It's
need
gonna
to have the
take time.
patience. I need to
It's
have the
going.
patience.
It's definitely gonna take time. This is a couple of years type of holding, maybe
Hmm.
even five.
Oh,
So
5 at the minimum for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I like the fact that what you said, like they're a US based company. They're not gonna let
Hmm.
them just drown, right? So they gotta figure out a way to bring him back from the death, basically. But it's gonna take a lot of work on their behalf. Now that they announced the CEO, hopefully, like now they can start actually working toward, those restructuring plans that they have in place.
Exactly. Exactly. So, like I said, we're both convinced that if Intel needs a lifeline from the government, they're gonna get it. So worst case scenario, the government bails them out if they need a lifeline. But we'll see what the CEO does. I mean, I don't know what his vision is. I don't know what you know, I don't know what his long-term plan is. I don't know where he's going to start cutting more of the fat from the business.
Yeah, yeah,
But I like the news about the Broadcom and the NVIDIA partnership that could be happening. So we'll have to wait and see. Um, I don't know if you saw what I posted in the investment group yesterday, but did you see that Facebook or Meta is looking to start
yeah.
training their own AI chips
Hmm.
so that they become less dependent on NVIDIA?
Hmm.
That's a if and from what I hear, that's a big revenue source from NVIDIA.
Yeah, if they lose that business,
If they lose that business, that's not going to be
yeah,
good.
we might
And
have another Apple and Intel type of thing. So
yep, exactly. And this is why I keep trying to tell people is when I look at the AI story, Taiwan Semiconductor is more important than NVIDIA
mhm.
because again, who are they going to ask to build the chips?
Yeah,
TSM has
TSM,
the
they,
best technology to
yep,
build the chips, especially when it comes to like inscribing those like, the three, I think they're at like 3 nanometers now where they start,
yep,
yeah. So as those things get smaller and smaller, to me, NVIDIA is the leader. I mean, not NVIDIA,
yeah,
TSM
TSM.
is a leader in that.
Yep, yep. And you can see
So,
that they're preparing for something big, like opening all these locations and stuff, opening
hmm,
this big mega factories and stuff. They're
yeah,
definitely preparing for something really big. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
If you tell me where I'd want to be over the next 5 to 10 years, which company I would buy between NVIDIA and TSM, I would tell you TSM. That's just me. And I'm not saying nothing against NVIDIA, but to me, NVIDIA just has way too many partners in the chip building space to where I don't see them getting knocked off the block anytime soon. And to me, I don't see someone like Intel all of a sudden becoming a leader after the times that they've just faltered
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
last 4 years. So
They dropped the ball on that one.
yeah, I love TSM. long-term trajectory. I really like where this business is going. I don't know if you've read the story about the CEO. He's another guy. If you read his story, very fascinating as far as what he built over there and the demand and the partnerships that he's been able to sort of kind of have on lock as far as their chip building and supply is. So, chip designing, that's one business. Chip
Mm-hmm.
building,
It's a
completely
whole
different
different
business.
something else. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You kind of remind me of the nuclear thing. Like,
Hmm.
there are people, there are companies that design the nuclear and how it should looks like, and there are companies who are going to build how the plant should look like. So, speaking of that, I don't know what's going on with Oklo, man. I haven't really been following them. I have my shares and I keep adding more, but I haven't really like been paying attention too much to what's going on with them.
So let me give you something that just came on my news feed this week. It says Big Tech's nuclear pact. Corporate tech and energy giants are joining forces to triple the globe's nuclear capabilities by 2050. The efforts are led by Amazon, Meta, Occidental Petroleum, and Dow Inc. And they're building a pledge that by 20 United Nations members, which they started in 2023, are aiming to reach net zero emissions through nuclear expansion.
Mm.
So, again, you're getting more money and more fuel
Yeah.
behind the nuclear story. And it's not just about data centers, it's also about net zero emissions and clean energy. So, I still feel strongly about Oklo moving forward. I still like anybody that's in that space.
Hmm.
I think Oklo is more in like the micro SMR space,
Yep.
and I think you got CEG, and there's
CG.
another one, SMR. So they all kind of play in a similar space.
Yep.
To me, I still feel like the demand for power over the next 5 to 10 years is still going to be needed. And again, I still feel that nuclear is going to be something people will continue to tap into. And I'm just gonna have to. I'm riding this train.
You
I'm
got right. Yeah,
riding this
you got
train.
right this wave. Absolutely. Speaking
You
of
know,
CEG, man, when that thing dropped like crazy,
yeah.
I
A
think we
lot.
were.
Yeah, a lot of the nuclear names have been getting whooped.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
So yeah,
That's crazy.
CEG was at 352 at the high. Now we're down to
Two
215.
215. Yes, indeed.
Aklo was 59 at the high, and now we're down to 26.
And that's the thing. Remember, like when we was at 50, everybody was like, "Is it too late? Is it too late to get in?" Like, guys, you when you were asking, it was now it was like 50% from that time you were excited about. Like literally 50%. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? It's like if you were excited about it when it was at 50, it's at
We
24, $25,
I I
50%
I
off.
hope you're excited about it where it's at now.
You
Yeah,
should
I
be.
haven't I haven't exited my position, but I did have some stop losses on some of my longer term
Yeah,
leaps. But I'm not exiting my shares. I'm not selling
yeah.
those
Oh
anytime
no.
soon.
Oh
No.
no.
Mm-mm.
I won't be surprised if these shares turn into like $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they've got an earnings report coming up, so I'm gonna try and get on that call.
Yep,
So
yep,
I want to listen to what they're gonna say, and maybe that's the catalyst that starts to give us a little bit more momentum. It looks like that call is scheduled for the 24th, so that's
mm-hmm,
gonna be about 2 weeks. Maybe that gives us the catalyst about what's going to happen. Again, they don't have anything that's operational, but if the demand is there and they are able to start building things out, I really, really, really like where this stock could go long
yep.
term, especially because again, you don't get backing from multiple billion-dollar companies behind something that no one like thinks is feasible. You just don't do that.
No, and I think the fact that some of the big names, especially like Sam Altman, all these people like backing it up and stuff, like
Hmm.
they know something.
Yeah.
And that, all you can do is follow that follow the trajectory basically.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if they have any unusual
Options activity.
that's coming up in the next 2 weeks actually.
So one thing I want to mention, we've been spotting a lot of big call buys in PVD.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like I have
So,
no idea what's going on with
so
PD.
if you're not familiar with PDD, I think PDD is a holding company that actually owns Temu, and they also
Yep.
own another um, e-commerce company. And with the tariffs being slapped on China, I'm wondering why someone would be bullish, short-term bullish on PDD.
Like really short too.
And
Like
I'm not talking,
today was like March 28th. That's
and we're not talking about like $1 million. We're talking about like a $4 million call order out of the
yep.
money.
Yep.
So PDD is something that I would put on my radar because I don't think anybody would blindly put up $4 million on a short-term out of their money contract if they didn't know something.
That's a lot of money, man.
That's a lot of money.
So
So very speculative. There's no technical analysis behind this,
yeah.
but we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
don't see anything unusual. I mean, the only unusual one that I see is Aklo calls $30 strike March 28th. There's about 1,200 volume on there.
okay.
And then the March
How much is the premium?
doesn't really tell you on here.
Yeah, we might get some more orders as we get
Yeah.
closer to the earnings day.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it and see what direction we're going with that. But that's a good one to keep an eye on, especially going toward
Earnings, yeah.
earnings. So we shall see, man. But yeah, PDD is a very interesting one that I was keeping an eye on. IWO is another one. I mean, we keep seeing this 190, 195 put options that's coming out for them also. So yeah, keeping an eye on those also. But let me see. I think that's all I have, man. I wonder if you have any advice going into, tomorrow and then Friday. I know we have the jobless report coming out tomorrow.
Jobless report at 5:30, I think it is, and then we got PPI as well tomorrow.
Yep.
So the only
How important is the PPI?
PPI to me is important because again, I actually used to think that PPI would come out before CPI, but for some reason we got CPI first. But again, PPI is important because again, whatever producers are paying extra money on, they're probably going to
Pass it down.
can't pass that down to the consumer. So that's why I like looking at PPI to seeing, okay, are producers paying more money for the goods that they're selling?
Mhm.
Jobless claims we have to take a look at as well because again, if we start to see unemployment getting ridiculously high, is a thing that the Fed could intervene with and start to cut rates because again, they
Yeah.
don't want to see that.
Yeah.
So something to keep an eye on because again, we're hearing about all of these layoffs within the federal government, but we're not seeing it necessarily translate as much in the jobs numbers. We're seeing jobless claims starting to move up, but nothing
Hmm.
to the point where again it's gonna start causing panic and people are like, how should I put it, overreacting. We're not
Yeah.
seeing that just yet.
Yeah.
So my advice in this market is number one, expect more volatility. Just continue to expect it. As long as the VIX is trading above 20, whatever move you see overnight may not be the move you see in the morning. Whatever
Facts.
move you see in the morning might not be the move you see in the afternoon. You just have to be prepared for the volatility. And as you're trading, don't overstay your welcome.
That's a fact.
Do not overstay your welcome because I'll give you an example. Like today, let's just say you're playing puts. You get that initial pop and then puts the market starts to sell off, you're in puts. Look what happened at the end of the day.
Right back up.
Swing trading is very dangerous in this type of market. Be
Facts.
very, very cautious if that is your strategy on a regular basis. Spreads are better because it'll help you fight decay and the IV crush that could happen. So,
Right.
spreads are a good way to trade in this type of environment if you want to swing. But naked puts and naked calls, I mean, not naked, but basically if you're buying a call and buying a put, be prepared for anything. Like if you're going to
Yeah.
swing anything overnight, to me, the way I would do it is like I would just probably maybe put 30 to 20% of what I would want to put in the trade initially and then see what happens in the morning.
Yep. Yep.
That
Yep.
way
Because even with volatility, you might wake up in the morning and you're not even if you move in your direction, you're still not gonna make money.
exactly. So that's what I would do. I would just be like, you know what? Let me just put 20% of what I want to put into this trade, see what happens overnight. If, things move in an opposite direction that I'm not prepared for, then I can adjust in the morning. That's the way I would do it. As an investor, I'm not, again, I'll go back to what I said. I'm not saying don't buy. If you feel comfortable buying at these levels, there's no problem with that. Just be prepared to buy at lower prices. So keep some dry powder on the sideline where you can infuse it if the stock that you like or the index that you like or you're buying starts to dip below where you originally bought it. That's
Yep,
just my
yep.
advice. Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you guys, if you go on your chart, just watch this. The morning session. So from the time we open at 9:30 to about 11 o'clock, that's where the most move that's happening in the morning happens. Like
Hmm.
literally that morning session. But from 11 o'clock all the way to about 1 o'clock, you probably see consolidation. There's nothing happening. That's a kill. That's the time where you're if you're holding something at that time, it might be getting killed right there by
Yep.
IV, all of that stuff, right? It's
Theta,
getting
theta.
killed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's eating at your contract. So if you miss that opportunity in the morning, that 9:30 to 11 o'clock, just wait till about the afternoon. I'll say maybe like around 1:30, go back and start looking at charts. You're gonna start seeing some reversals, whether to the upside or the downside, depending on what direction we're in. But go look at it. Like literally every afternoon, we'll see a reversion, a reversal really hard to one direction, right?
Hmm.
So keep an eye on those times. Like if you miss the morning rally, like don't throw your money, man.
Yeah.
Like chill.
Yeah. Don't go into the FOMO mode.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. And just go get some coffee, do some work, and then come back in the afternoon, like around 1:30, 2 o'clock. Go see it, man. We see a lot of rallies during that time. Like we see
Yeah.
some, either sell off or buy off during that time. So
Yeah, I mean, the way I've been trading over the last couple of days, I've been just looking to catch, these pops that eventually sell off.
yep,
And we actually caught a really, really nice move to the downside on United Airlines.
yep.
That thing was down 7% today at one point, and we caught a really nice move to the
Nice move.
downside.
Yep,
But we had to wait for the pump fake because, again, it looked like it was going to be bullish. We had to wait for the pump fake, be patient, and once we started to breach the levels that we were looking at, we ended up making a good amount of time. And then
yeah,
usually for me, once I'm done with the morning session, the back half of the afternoon session, I'm just watching. I'm
yeah,
just an observer. No
yeah,
need to force anything. No need to, wait until tomorrow, reassess the markets, and then go from there. Because again, and don't read too much into futures.
no,
You can't. With a 25 VIX, don't read too much into futures.
nope,
No.
nope,
Yeah,
nope.
because those moves can happen and reverse on you very quickly. Um, I think we had IWM was up 2% at one point, then it went negative.
Real quick, like
Real quick. So don't read too much in the futures. So
yeah,
that would be my advice.
yeah, because even futures is up right now. I mean, I think we're gonna repeat the same cycle again. It's inside on the day. Yeah, it's literally how we work today. It's probably gonna pop up and then we'll see a sell off again. So I don't know. We just gotta keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, but
Dr.
that
Dr. Pratt in the chat says, Amen. Don't overstay your welcome. Yep, you gotta stick and move, man. You gotta stick and move in this market. Stick and move.
don't be there too long. But
Yeah.
yeah, all right, y'all. We are done. Have a good week. We'll see you guys on Friday with the recap. We close out the week. But like what I say, just be careful tomorrow. Don't overstay your welcome. And yeah, when you get your
Oh, and
profit, get your
yeah.
profit.
Another thing I'll also see too is that anytime a major index and stocks start trading below their 200-day moving average, take any rally or pop with a grain of
Yeah,
salt
so, yep,
until you start seeing higher highs and higher lows.
yep.
Once you start seeing the structure of the market start to change, then you can have a little bit more confidence that we potentially could see a reversal to the upside direction. But until then, be
That's a good
patient.
tip. That's a good
Yeah,
tip right there.
be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Remember, I always said there will be signs. One of those is literally looking
yeah,
at 200 EMA,
yeah.
see where
Look
the
at the
stock close at,
look at the 200 EMA because part of why we traded UAL today was it got rejected at the 200-day
Yep.
EMA. Got
Yep.
rejected. I think we caught Apple yesterday.
Apple yesterday
Apple
also.
got rejected at the 200 EMA.
Mm-hmm.
That was down pretty substantially yesterday. So
Yep.
you're starting to see critical levels get breached, and when they get breached, you just have to tell yourself that the path of least resistance is down until we start to recover above those levels, or
Yep.
until the structure of the trend starts to change.
Yep. 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 So yeah. A move above 200 EMA, a close above 200 EMA is going to give you a signal that things are reversing, right? The other one is that this one is a little hard to spot as a higher highs, so higher lows and higher highs. Like those ones are a little hard to spot, but if you just want to have a 200 EMA on your chart and just wait. If you really want to be a buyer, you know what I mean. So that would be a good signal for you to watch on.
Yeah, the hardest part of markets like this is patience. The hardest part.
Yeah, yeah.
The hardest part. But we will
Uh,
prevail. So
Yeah, we got this, man. We are seeing some really discount and some really good stocks, man. I really hope you guys are listening because we are at a time. If this when we start seeing reversals, you guys are gonna make a lot of money because
yeah,
discounts are everywhere right now.
yeah. Just remember the decisions you make today are gonna be what affects what your portfolio looks like in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Facts, facts.
So, and yesterday was the 5 year anniversary from COVID.
Ooh,
Um, and
timely.
and if you go look at what happened in COVID with the markets and people who were buyers during COVID rather than sellers during COVID, and they held those investments up until now, even with the drop that we have now, those
They're
people are
still up.
still in pretty
Yes,
good shape.
they're still in profit.
So don't
Yeah,
don't become short-sighted about what's happening and what the news is selling you. Sometimes you have to sit back, put your investor hat on, and reassess what's really going on and have a deep dive into, how you want to approach this market.
yeah,
Doesn't mean buy every dip, doesn't mean throw all your capital now that the market is selling off, but it means you should be creating a list of things that you want to start to purchase and start to, make put your capital into those opportunities from
yeah.
time to time.
That sounds very familiar, man. I feel like we talked about that back in August. We said the same exact thing,
We said the
man.
same thing back in
That's
August. Now,
crazy.
now this is the thing I will say this. August 5th, when we had that nasty sell-off, we saw some really, really good buying opportunities with a lot of names. And a lot of
Hmm.
people in our trading group made a lot of money. This time around, things are very different,
Yep.
mainly because there's a macroeconomic headwind that everybody has to navigate now.
Yep.
Because back in August was just that spike from
It was
the jobless
the
claims
employees.
number,
Yep.
like
Yep.
employee, like people got spooked by that. And
Hmm.
I told people that's a data point that a lot of people usually don't worry about.
Don't pay attention to. Yep.
And we saw a dip. We eventually regained momentum to the upside. So
Yep.
this time around is a little bit different because we've breached the 200 on a lot of indexes. We've been sitting below the 200 on a lot of indexes.
Yep.
And if you look at the 200 EMA and SMA on QQQ, we have broken a 3 year bullish trend. So when
Just
you see
crazy.
stuff like that, that tells you that you have seen substantial uh, selling, like
Yep.
substantial selling. We didn't see that in August. So again, you got to take this a little bit differently. Um, but another tip that I'll give people, I keep telling you, the leading indicator to tell you whether there's more trouble ahead, look at spreads of bonds. AAA and high grade corporates compared to treasuries of the same maturity.
Yep.
When those spreads start to widen, that is your signal that we're in trouble. Right now, they are still fairly tight. We're not seeing a lot of widening, but as they start to widen, that's when you have to start taking caution. So until then, I am optimistic we'll get through this trade war stuff and this budget deficit thing. I mean, the budget deficit is ridiculous now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once we get past all that, then I'll have a little bit more confidence about the stuff that I'm buying for the upside. But until then, I got to be patient.
Patience is the name of the game right now.
Yeah, patience is the name of the game. We got a salute from Finance Babe, so salute to you as well. So
Appreciate you.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, be patient, be patient. So
All right, y'all. I think we're good now. We'll wait till tomorrow and then Friday and see how the market does in the next couple of days. Again, next week we have some good economic stuff that's happening next week. So
yeah, the Fed meeting is highlight number one.
yep. So that might be a catalyst for one way or the other. We'll see which way we go. But
Yep.
yeah. All right, man. Well, y'all have a good night. We will see you guys back on Friday.